This is Parker Hesse. This is Sam Branks. You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Beau Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West, for sure.
Dylan Pond.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
So crack a tall boy and go Hawks.
All right, welcome into another episode of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. I'm Rob.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Beau.
And today we have a special guest on the show. Please welcome to the show, Lance Hinschberger. Cheers, guys.
Hey, welcome, Lance.
What's up, Lance?
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Lance is a friend of ours, and he is a wrestling expert, so he's going to help us out when we talk about Iowa wrestling. But we do have a good show for you guys. We want to wrap up. I know it's been a little bit. We took a hiatus over the holidays, but we wanted to talk about the ending of the Iowa Hawkeyes football season and kind of get some final thoughts and some closure there. Of course, we're going to talk about the Iowa Hawks basketball team and how well they're doing, the men's basketball team. And then we're going to transition into like sort of a preview for wrestling and how they're doing and from there. So it should be a great show. So thanks for tuning in if you're listening. And then, so I guess without further ado, guys, I just want to start by saying, you know, what a season it was, and I can't wait to do it all again. I feel like this season, football-wise, is going to go down as a memorable one, or maybe just a funny little footnote. Just kind of hey, remember that time where there was no fans in the stands, and the Hawks ended the season almost undefeated after they're on a winning streak. So, I mean, if you haven't heard the news, we've been living under a rock. Obviously, the bowl game was canceled. And so we were unable to play our bowl game, and that's sort of it. That just kind of fizzled out. And everyone's eligible to come back if they want, since they don't lose a year of eligibility. But what are your thoughts, guys?
So we ended the season on 6-2, which kind of stinks. You know, obviously a 6-game win streak, but would have been nice to cap it off with a bowl win or even get one more regular season win. But, you know, obviously we ended on a high note. We got a lot of guys returning, although we do have quite a few moving on to the NFL and other phases of their life. But, you know, good to end on that high note. Looking forward to hopefully having some fans in the stands next year.
Yeah, Beau, I think that point is spot on right there. You know, just the way they finished the season. You start off a season 0-2, you could easily throw in the towel. I know we touched a little bit on this in our last podcast, but very easily could have thrown in the towel and said, you know, fuck it, it's a COVID year. This doesn't count anyway. The guys really rebounded and played well in the rest of the year and ended up winning 6 straight. And let's be honest, I think they could have won another 2 by throttling Michigan and Missouri in that Music City Bowl as well. So overall, did the best we could. And especially after the way they started, just really, really proud of the guys and the way they played the rest of the season. And pumped to get back in Kinnick for 2021.
So even though we only played 8 games, it's pretty nice to see that we finished in the top 25 yet again. So kudos to the coaching staff and the players again for not throwing in the towel. But also, if you guys seen it already, we're already preseason ranked in the top 16 in multiple polls for next year, which is pretty dope. I hope that we can finish out, you know, as well as we did this year, maybe even better. But some high hopes going into next year too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I was going to say, you know, when it comes to the football team, I mean, I always viewed those first 2 losses as, you know, those, and we talked about this before, but I mean, if we would have played, I don't know about Iowa State, but if we would have played our Miamis of Ohio's, our North Texas's, our normal first games, I think we would have worked it out and we would have came away with a win. And then we would have played Iowa State tough and then we would have seen where we were. But I mean, I could very easily see us going undefeated this year if it worked for those two things. And I almost view them. I think I almost said it in the intro, but it was almost like they were undefeated. Those first two losses were kind of too bad, but they were on a winning streak and they were looking good at the end of the season. And we throttled Wisconsin. We ran over Wisconsin. So you got to love that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on that note too, Rob, I mean, obviously we went 6-2, 8 games. You know, we had some troubling times. We had some good times too. I'm going to throw it over just some of the biggest takeaways from this year. I'll start with you, Rob. What do you think were some of your highlights and some of your low life? Maybe one of each, more or less a good vibe, bad vibe of the season. Let's hear your take.
Sure. I love it. I'll start with some good vibes. So good vibes, guys. This is a year that was basically one big, long practice year, pretty much. So what the fans have to look forward to is Spencer Petras having a full year of basically starting and playing in game situations that doesn't count toward his eligibility. And so he can work on his game. He can figure out what his weaknesses are. He can look at the tape. And then I feel like he's going to be a lot more comfortable going into, his second, sophomore year, I guess that'd be. So yeah, really looking forward to see how he develops. I think it's a blessing in disguise for him. So that's some good vibes. And honestly, everybody who's a young player on that team getting game experience, I mean, it's invaluable to how well they can be and how well they can play. It looks like we really didn't suffer any enormous injuries or anything like that, aside from what's going to, with Amir Smith-Marset, you know what I mean, and how he's looking. But other than that, I mean, there were very many major injuries to speak of. So that's good. Other thing, bad vibes, I will say, just the unfinished business, the lack of a bowl game, just kind of like the up in the airness of the way the season ended. It seemed like we were sort of building steam, heading towards, whoever we were going to play, which ended up being Missouri in the Music City Bowl. So it's just too bad that we didn't get to walk all over Mizzou in the bowl game.
Yeah, that would have been bad. But regardless, as far as good vibes, bad vibes go, I think my good vibe as far as the season goes, and I touched on it earlier, is just the way they responded. This group of guys, a lot of young leaders on this team where, like I said, they could have folded in very early, and I don't think any of us would have really cared all that much if they did go ahead and fold and, throw in like a Deuce Hogan or somebody like that and just see what they have. But the coaches stuck with their guns, stuck with the game plan, and ended up 6-2, winning 6 straight in the Big Ten nonetheless. And, this year a little disappointing for them, but typically a powerhouse conference. So I just came away with this season just really excited for the future. It seems like whenever Iowa has similar teams like this, you think back to like 2008 with like that Sean Green team that came out the gate, lost a few they probably shouldn't have. Sounds familiar. And then ended the season on a winning streak and looked great, and then came back that next year and ended up winning the Orange Bowl. So the talent's there. I think this team can be a really, really good team, if not a great team. Just got to put in the work now and get ready for next year. So really excited to see what these guys can do in 2021. As far as my bad vibe goes, I totally agree with Rob's point about the unfinished business. I would have to say my bad vibe is, the lack of a better start, because it's not like there's any secret that this. Sorry about that. It's not like this was any secret that this was going to be an all Big Ten season. So, you would have thought the guys would have come, a little more guns blazing, knew what they were doing. Instead, Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz, those guys had this plan, and it very quickly figured out it wasn't working. When Spencer Petras threw the ball 55 times versus Northwestern, okay, yeah, this isn't Iowa football. This isn't what we should be doing. Let's change some things up. So I'd like to see them come out of the gate swinging a little bit more, and I think we're going to see that next year. What do you think, Beau?
Yeah, I love it, Dale. I'm going to start out on bad vibe, and I'm going to literally echo what Rob had to say. Like, I think we were building a ton of momentum. It just would have been awesome to really see what we could have done, especially as a defensive unit, because they'd been playing so well. I'm going to go straight into the good vibe that way. Our defense played out of their mind this year, and it started with the D-line. At the first couple of games, we were looking at each other like, who the hell is going to step up? And that D-line came out of nowhere. Davion Nixon played unreal, and obviously had a ton of accolades in the postseason this year. But now we're going to be starting fresh next year, basically a brand new D line. But we're going to be returning a ton of people in our secondary and in our linebacking core. Offensive line is damn near all the way back. The receiving core is down a little bit, but we still have some good dudes coming in. Essentially we have everybody back. But I'm going to just say with my good vibe, our defense this year was awesome, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen and who's going to step up next year.
And that's a really good point, Beau. I was thinking about this. Do you guys remember what our one concern with this defense coming into the season was?
Our D-line.
I think we were unanimously saying the defensive line, losing AJ Epinesa, losing Cedric Lattimore, losing those full-time starters, and thinking that, holy shit, these guys are going to take a huge hit. And it was the opposite. I think it took Davion Nixon a couple games to really get going. Same thing with Chauncey Golston as well, who maybe didn't have the flashy numbers and whatnot, but nonetheless, he's going to have a very, very long career in the NFL. So, yeah. Phil Parker, how he didn't win the Broyles Award is beside me. I don't get it, but what?
Probably because we didn't play a postseason game was probably the only thing.
Yeah.
Very well could be.
Well,
Boo.
That pretty much does it for football. Unless we got any final thoughts,
All right,
guys.
I just want to say, don't clap.
Easy. Okay, so I don't know if we mentioned that, have we yet? That Lance is a very big Nebraska fan, and he did not like our coaches on the sidelines clapping.
Yeah, Lance,
Scott
what's your
Frost,
take on that? Is that for real or no?
You guys know just as much as I do. I thought it was a joke. I thought Frost was kidding. I mean, our center had Nebraska's center has had issues this past season and the year before. Snapping. I mean, he's a converted tight end. But yeah, I thought it was a complete joke, and he looked stupid. I'm glad that Kirk put him in his place a little bit.
Well, without further ado, guys, let's get into some basketball. So, men's basketball this year for Iowa Hawkeyes have been on a roll. We're number 5 in the nation. We have been top 5 in the nation all year. At one point, we were number 3, I think is where we peaked. Do we get to number 2?
Yeah,
Yeah, we were at number 3, and then we lost to Gonzaga. It was a 1-against-3 matchup, and then I think Baylor's secured that 2 spot for a while.
Yep. And to pick it up from there, we beat the crap out of Purdue. We ended up losing to number 23 ranked Minnesota on Christmas Day by 7 points, 102-95. Came back, beat Northwestern. Came back, beat a close game against Rutgers, and then we beat Maryland by almost 20. And then most recent game, this is on the 10th, so 3 days ago, the men's basketball team got revenge against Minnesota and we ended up winning that game. So as it stands right now, the Hawks basketball team, let me pull up those. Yeah, we are 11-2. We're 5-1 in conference with that loss to Minnesota. We're on a 4-game winning streak. We're currently 2nd in the Big Ten right now behind Michigan, who is 6-0 in conference, 11-0 overall. But to be honest, guys, I mean, first off this year, starting off great. Luka Garza looks great. Just want to do some highlights and then try to get into some breakdown on what it's looking like. But I know that the Big Ten conference is going to be pretty heavy competition. I think the Big Ten conference is the best. Excuse me, all these burps coming up from this beer. Are the best conference for basketball in the state or in the United States. So I think that it's going to be tough for us to continue to. We'll see how many teams beat up on each other. If we can get through the conference relatively unscathed, I think that we have a good shot at being a number 1 seed in the tournament.
Well, first and foremost, Rob, I think to prove your point of the Big Ten being one of the best basketball conferences, we at one point had 9 teams in the Big Ten ranked in the top 25. So to say the Big Ten is stacked is an understatement. And all these teams are just beating up on each other, and they have a ton of losses, or at least starting out with a few losses. But It's because they have the best competition in the nation, right? So they're playing all these good teams night in, night out. The Big Ten's just tough. And so, like you said, I mean, obviously, Luka Garza is the preseason player of the year, likely going to get the national player of the year. The first couple of games, we really didn't see Jordan Bohannon come out and hit shots like he usually does. Last few games, he's been on a tear. Joe Wieskamp is really trying to find himself, really has found himself, and has solidified himself as more of our number 2 scorer, go-to guy when Garza's not playing. Keegan Murray, everyone knows this kid. Just come off the bench as a true freshman. Love him. And he's a P-Hawk. Dylan, you're on mute right now.
There we go. Baby. I got it. P-Hawk Nation. Let's go.
Dude, he's playing unreal right now, especially in the defensive glass. But, I mean, you think about that. CJ Frederick is absolutely – he's a walking bucket. He's unconscious from 3. And so they have shooters everywhere. So, like, you get it into Garza, he's getting double team. He's going to pass it out. And we're gonna make shots. And right now we're averaging, anywhere from 85 to 95 points a game. As long as you play a little bit of defense, like Iowa's been doing lately, you're going to win just about every ball game. And you're going to be right in every single ball game.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And here's my thing. You hear everybody talking about like how great Luka Garza is, and don't get me wrong, completely well deserved. I might be in the minority here, but I think this team is a borderline Sweet 16 team without him. Like the guard play is just outstanding this year. I think if you had a serviceable person, down low, I think this team could, make some noise in the tournament. And now you got the national player of the year that just happens to be a center, and this team can make a run. This team really can, and I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna surprise. Not even necessarily surprise because they're ranked so high and are such a good team, but I think they're gonna surprise a lot of us Hawk fans that are used to the disappointment. So, look for this team to do big things. Very, very excited for March. Not only for basketball, but for Lance.
Honestly, though, it's pretty awesome to get that matchup with Gonzaga right away. But, man, Rob, you alluded to that game against Minnesota on Christmas Day. Like, talk about a heart-wrencher. We were up by 7 points with 30 seconds left, and we ended up going to overtime and losing the game. It's just like, damn, what could have been? It could be undefeated in conference, only one loss to a really good Gonzaga team. Now here we are. But, I think we all know this. We learned from our losses, and that was a good loss to learn from. Get it over with early and take the punches and learn from it.
Absolutely. And so just put in perspective, so Garza is actually the number 1 player in the country right now, which is weird to say that he's an Iowa Hawkeye. It's weird to think that I saw him play in person a few times when he was a freshman. And I was like, man, that kid's kind of goofy. I like his name, though. It's fun to say Garza. So, anytime he got minutes, I was like, there he is, Luka. And, when if he listens to this, my apologies. But, when he was a freshman, it looked like he was still kind of getting used to, being how big he was. So when they threw him the ball, he would look uncoordinated when he caught it down low, and things like that. But man, has that changed, and he's really grown, and he's really become such an amazing player. He is so crafty around the rim. This year, he's averaging 27.6 points a game, and it's not like we're playing bums out there. We're playing against the best teams in the nation. Nobody can. I haven't seen anyone really contain him. So he's going to get his. He's shooting 48.9% from 3, which is just unbelievable for a big man of his size. 62.7% from field goals in general. He's improved his free throws from last year as a 65% shooter. He's now a 74% shooter. So, he's just getting better, and it's just surprising to see. So really awesome. But besides Garza, guys, you mentioned it, Keegan Murray is getting unbelievable playing time. His twin brother is Kenyon, right?
Chris. Kenyon.
Yeah. Kenyon's his dad. Okay. Because I know they're both legacies, and his dad played for the Hawks. He's really becoming he's grabbing so many rebounds. I'm excited to see what he turns into. We were talking about how, what type of player he's going to be in the future. If he's going to be more if he builds a lot of muscle, if he's going to end up being more like a Tyler Cook type player, or somebody mentioned he could be like a Nicholas Bear, shooting kind of a bigger guard who can shoot threes. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how he develops.
It's crazy you say that. He's got a twin brother too, right? And it sounds like they're bumping around with Luka Garza down low. they keep getting those minutes, even in practice against Garza, they're going to be studs. And Fran has talked about, hey, if I could get Chris more minutes, I totally would. But there's so many dudes, like we're so deep right now. I just can't find him any minutes,
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
season looks so bright. Dill, you alluded to Sweet 16. Honestly, if we see Iowa, shoot as well as they can and play to their potential, like everyone's talking Final Four, but I could see Final Four, maybe even national title. So, I mean, team's goal is national title. I don't know if I'll go that far quite yet, but they're looking pretty solid right now.
So now, Beau, I said that without Garza, I think Iowa's a Sweet 16 team.
You are correct.
Call me crazy, but I think they're a borderline Sweet 16 without him, and obviously with him, I think they have the chance to win the whole damn thing. So I'm pumped for March.
Yeah, what's dope too is a lot of those, or I guess all those games now are going to be in Indianapolis or Indiana, nonetheless. So I think we got a pretty good streak of winning some pretty good basketball games over in Indiana. So, and it's only 8-9 hours away from Cedar Rapids where we all live. So that's pretty dope for people who want to travel out there if they're able to go do that or tailgate or whatever.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hawks are rolling.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Rob, I want to push this to you though. In terms of Iowa basketball right now, like so far, I know we've kind of talked about all the scorers and obviously the record, but so far, what are your two biggest takeaways of the season yet? Do you think? I guess I'll just I'll push to you. What do you think your two biggest takeaways so far of the season are?
Sure. So after we had a loss to Minnesota and a few games before that, especially against Gonzaga, I was like, I'm not sold on Jordan Bohannon. I don't know. I don't think he should be starting. I struggle to find what he brings to the table that Joe Toussaint doesn't bring to the table. Besides, if he's not shooting well, then I don't know what he's doing in there. You know what I mean? Because he was coming up with some turnovers, and I don't know. It's taken him some time to sort of get in the rhythm of the game a little bit, whereas others haven't. But he's kind of turned it around. He's been shooting a lot. He's been finding his shot a lot more, which is great. And that just adds to the inside-out game that we play, basically. So one thing I was skeptical about as well is that we continue to play like a 1-3-1 defense, and playing zone defense at the collegiate level is risky in my opinion, unless you're a really long, lanky team like a Kentucky or Kansas. But I mean, we seem to. I mean, obviously, Fran's been playing that defense for a long time, and we do situationally go into like a 1-2-2 press, and we do play some man-to-man in situations, maybe out of bounds plays and things like that. But I'm pretty impressed with I would say one takeaway is I'm pretty impressed with the way our defense has been playing, because really what it forces the opponent to do is to shoot. Hey, we're going to give you open threes, and you have to make them to beat us. Is pretty much what they're saying. But because we're going to score I think more consistently than the other team. And so if we're giving them open looks and they don't, if we get the rebound, which was what the 1-3-1 is sort of designed to do, is to secure the rebound by putting those guys in those spots. If we can get those kind of defensive rebounds, then that's another possession that we can go down and score and widen the gap between us and the next team. So, I mean, it can work, and that's the way that it has been going so far. It's just you have to just basically outpace us when it comes to that and when it comes to us scoring points. But I will say that we're going to run into teams that are going to be shooting really well, like Gonzaga. Like, who was that freshman from Gonzaga? Jalen Suggs lit us up. And, that was the situation when I was, watching it thinking, okay, we need to figure this out. We need to switch it up. We need to have somebody on him. We need to do something. And that we're going to run into that. And I think that we saw that. And I think the rest of the nation saw that, unfortunately. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do have super high hopes for him, obviously. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Sorry guys, I kind of just went on a roll, but what do you think? What do you guys think about the way that things are going for us so far?
Go ahead, Dill.
So overall, my biggest takeaways from this season is this team is damn good. I echo everything you said, Rob, but it's it's just like too good to be true. I remember my freshman year at Iowa, it would be the 2012, 2013 season for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And you had Mike Gasell, you had Adam Woodbury, you had all these guys running around the dorms, like basically begging people to go to their games. And, me and my buddies were all big basketball fans. So we'd come out and, we do the thing, still a little fresh off of the Todd Licklider, dumpster fire years that the Hawkeye basketball program went through, and went and, saw that this team was competitive. And you saw, the first year of Fran's guys really starting to do their thing and come in there. And, guys like Mike Cassell, Adam Woodbury, Zach McCabe, all these guys. And you started seeing what it could be, and then a few years later, all of a sudden, Fran McCaffrey starts getting these big name recruits. You get Joe Wieskamp out of Muscatine. You get, Luca Garza out of Washington, D.C. to come here. You get Joe Toussaint out of the Bronx to come here. You get Jack Nungy, another solid player out of Chicago area, Illinois. And it's like, okay, so he's starting to get his players in. He's done a lot with not a lot of talent. What can Fran McCaffrey really do with some talent coming around? And Fran's taken a lot of heat, and some of it deservedly so, since he's been the coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I think this is just, I applaud the man. It's been a hell of a rebuild project, and guys, we're here. We're where we wanted to be. What was it, 8-9 years ago when Fran McCaffrey was hired, and it's taken a recruiting to get up. We're here, we're relevant, and the team is just frankly just damn good. And I couldn't be more excited for the future. And here's the thing, we're losing some studs this year. Let's say the Hawks, win the whole damn thing, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I will, won a national championship, again, hypothetical here. Now they're going to go through another 5,500 down years. And it's like, that's not really the case. You got Joe Toussaint coming back. You're going to have the Murray twins. You're going to have CJ Frederick back for another year. A lot of these key pieces that I think this team has the potential to be damn good for a long time. And if you keep the recruiting up, this program has, some very good potential to become, a perennial contender. So just hats off to Coach McCaffrey and the job he's done. And yeah, just really excited for the future for these guys.
Well, yeah,
love that.
The guys that you're going to have leaving, obviously, is going to be Garza. You're going to have Jordan Bohannon leaving. Wait a sec. Is this year not eligible for their?
So it is eligible. So he won't come back. The only other tweener probably will be Wieskamp if he decides to go to the NBA or come back.
Yep.
But if Wieskamp doesn't leave, Joe Toussaint, Joe Wieskamp, Aaron Eulis is a guy who's played really well. His brother almost ended up going to Kentucky, but almost came to Iowa. So it's nice to have him there. Patrick McCaffrey, both the Keegan twins, Murray twins. That's 6 guys. And then Nungy. Yep. Nungy will be back.
Tony Perkins.
Like these guys are good. They're just not. You don't hear them or hear of them a lot because it's Garza is stealing the show. So it's
absolutely.
It's looking up.
On top of that, like I'm gonna go my takeaways here, and like you said, you're naming off all these names, dude. Half those guys are bench players, and how can you not be excited about that? Like the bench players are already bringing a spark. Like not only are our starters going and putting in all these minutes, but we're getting great minutes and great energy off the bench. So I love that so far this year. Also, Rob, you alluded to this too. Our defense has been pretty stellar. And in terms of stats, just the last 4 games, teams have only been averaging like 71 points a game. And like we said too, our offense is so lethal. We're going to score 85 points, 85, 90 points a game. You're going to win every game. If you're, holding teams to that, we're out rebounding teams. We're out stealing teams. We're out blocking teams. And it all comes down to the spark we're getting off the bench from, again, Keegan Murray, Jack Nungy, Joe Toussaint, Patrick McCaffrey showed off the other day. But they're proving us wrong, and I love to see it.
What's interesting, in past Iowa teams that I've watched, one that comes to mind is the 2018-2019 team. that lost to Tennessee in overtime in the second round of the NCAA championship. I think one of the reasons why we lost that game was because when we really needed a bucket, we didn't have like I don't think we had a good game plan or a plan for it. But this year's team, when we really need a bucket, like you toss it down to Garza and he gets it. And like, it's just remarkable how much he's relied on, and like how that just completely makes everything else that everyone else does like icing on the cake. Like, you know what I mean? Like if he passes it out of the double team that he's inevitably going to find, it's going to be CJ Frederick or Jordan Bohannon or Joe Wieskamp or somebody slashing. Like it's just hard to stop. And I think that is a key difference that I think is what separates the teams that are good versus the teams that can do something special. So I'm excited.
You talk about that too, and like last year, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure crowd factor has a ton to do with it too, but like winning a game on the road in the Big Ten is obviously huge, and so far we've already done it twice, and so obviously that's a big improvement from this year's team to last year's team too. Okay, not only the maturity, but the ability to get off the plane and hey, we're gonna play, we're gonna fucking beat you, and we're gonna go home, kind of thing. Like, I love that mentality, and I love that hey, we're here strictly for business. We know what our end goal is. We're gonna get it done.
Also, I will say, Josh Ogundele is a freshman from London, England. I'm just looking at our roster right now, so this is why I'm pulling this out. 6'10", 285. So, like, he's a big boy, and he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time or his number called that much, just, you know, because of all the players that we have alluded to before. But I'm excited to see, you know, after this year is done and over with, you know, what he looks like on the floor, how well he plays and things like that, because he's got a big body. And I know it sounds like, you know, if he's practicing against guards every day, it sounds like he'll probably be able to bang.
And on that, whose body type does that remind you of? Luka Garza, baby.
Literally.
Yeah. Garza's 6'11", 265. So Josh has got 20 pounds on him.
But Garza, and no offense, obviously I'm not the skinniest guy in the world here, but Garza came in chunky. He was a big hoss. He's a big hoss and he trained really hard. Yeah. And he got the body he's got now. So.
And if there's anything that we know about Iowa is that, you know, they got a pretty good weight room. At least we like to say that. So that's really all we got for basketball, guys. We're really looking forward to the next 3 games. Looks like it's going to be Michigan State tomorrow, Northwestern on Sunday, or at Northwestern Sunday, Indiana on Thursday. We do have some big games, and we mentioned this earlier in the podcast. If I pull up the schedule, there is a little bit of a gauntlet where we play ranked Big Ten teams like in a stretch, which I think coming out of that stretch, I like to see what we kind of reevaluate where we're at. And see if, you know, what kind of seed that projects us into. Because right now, I mean, hey, if we keep winning, like, and we get a number 1 seed, I know it's sort of a gift and a curse, but I mean, statistically, like, we're going to have the best chances of beating beating teams and making it into like a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8, just statistically. But let's look at this schedule here. Let's see what I got.
And for those Hawkeyes and Tallboys listeners right now, just came out that Iowa-Michigan State for tomorrow night is postponed because of COVID that's in the Michigan State basketball team right now. So I'm not sure when they're going to get that, likely late January, early February, but FYI.
Yeah, so we're going to give a good look at so I do see that as postponed, yeah. Postponed. So then we got Illinois at Illinois on Friday, January 29th. And then basically February and beginning of March. So it looks like our schedule sort of backloaded with talent. It's the way it goes. I mean, we did play the number 1 team in the nation, but number 14 ranked Illinois at Illinois in Champaign Assembly Hall, Friday, January 29th, versus number 21 ranked Ohio State. It's weird to say that, see them ranked in the basketball realm, but we played them directly after Thursday, February 4th. We got a few games that are going to be tough in between there. Michigan State isn't ranked, but we're playing at Michigan State Saturday, February 13th.
Well, and they're tough, Rob. I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
Michigan State is a damn good team. They really are. They've kind of
been
had
ranked.
yeah. They've kind of got the shit end of the stick as far as scheduling goes, and have had a few breaks not go their way. Like they look pretty good versus Rutgers a week back now, and ended up losing that game. So, I mean, they're definitely no slouch. Not that anybody in the Big Ten is shit. I wouldn't want to play anybody in the Big Ten. So.
Especially at Michigan State with Coach Izzo and the Izzone and all the – I mean, I don't know if the Izzone probably won't be there, but be at Michigan State, at number 9 ranked Wisconsin, at home versus Penn State. Then we go at Ohio State again, at Michigan, number 7, then at home versus number 9 Wisconsin again. So there's literally, 6 or 7 games there where it's all going to be just one hard game after another hard game. So – I'm looking forward to see that. That's really going to be the fire that forges the steel on what we look like in the March Madness tournament. Other thoughts, guys, on the basketball team?
No, man, really looking forward to seeing what's going on the rest of the year with this. But, dudes, I'm already freaking pumped for wrestling season.
Yeah. Perfect segue. But before we get there, guys, I do want to jump into some mailbag. So we got a nice little mailbag segment. We got a few questions that we can kind of answer. Lance is here with us as a guest. So feel free, Lance, to give your thoughts on the Hawks as far as it goes. And when we have these questions here, we got some weird ones.
I got a quick mailbag question for you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about basketball. How much does the crowd normally affect a basketball game? Because I know how crazy like Carver gets for Iowa wrestling, and I mean, you watch top guys in the nation get carvered and just collapse. How much does Carver affect like a basketball game?
Oh, the effect, and I'll just take this one just from my time being a student there. I think the effect is just massive, where you got, because Carver's one of those special places that has, like you play essentially, like think of it like in a basement, like because the way Carver goes up, like you're playing at like the bottom of like a dome structure, if you want to think about it like that. So you got, what is it, 1,500, 1,550, something like that, fans on top of you screaming. And I can tell you, Lance, it sounds like you've been to Carver for wrestling duels, or at least seen them on TV. And I'm a huge wrestling fanatic as well. So, that's wild. I can tell you it gets similarly pretty crazy as well for basketball. And it's without a doubt a home court advantage, I guess. What do you guys think?
So, Dill, you were right. They hold 15,500 people there at Carver, and it gets rocking. Lance, you're right. Like, it gets so loud. It's just like every other Big Ten. I'm not going to say go ahead and say like every Big Ten facility, or even just on the road in any conference. It's just tough to win there. It's so awesome. It's a great atmosphere. Rob?
Yeah, also the floor seats, there's really no – it's almost like an NBA game, similar to an NBA game, where there's people courtside who are like not that far away from the court. So like you can hear what they're saying. Carver's like a big ass bowl, sort of like kind of like the Roman Coliseum, sort of, if it was smushed down into the ground. But I mean, so the sound just reverberates off. So it's 15,000, but I bet it sounds more like 25,000 people when it's really rocking. I mean, it would be this year. It's too bad. I cannot believe that on the COVID year, we're ranked 3rd in the nation. We're ranked 5th in the nation. Like, you got to be kidding. But, like, because that thing would be sold out. I would be dying to get a ticket to go. That'd be considered a super spreader event, guys. So, anyways, what I'm saying is it gets loud, and I think that the crowd plays a factor. So, like, if you make a mistake and you're an opponent, like you hear about it and it like reminds you of it, and you gotta kind of have a little bit of a savvy to you when you play, especially in front of a large group of people. Is like you can't be embarrassed. You kind of have to have a short memory. Like you throw the ball out of bounds, like, hey, you got to just figure it out and move on, because it can affect you for sure. And especially like things, random things like you airball a shot, you foul or get fouled or foul out regardless. Like, people are going to chant at you. You're at the free throw line and everyone's standing behind and holding up the faces of like Michael Jordan crying and things like that. Like just the randomness of it. Like it's, they practice for that, but I mean, it's one thing to practice, but when you're in a game, like in a situation like that, I think it definitely affects you. And the same way on the opposite side of the coin, like when you're playing in your home court, like that's what you want. Like you want raucous fans, you want people to go nuts, you want all that. So it's almost like it fuels your ego. Like if you're Jordan Bohannon and you drain a three at Carver, like, he throws his three up, he like runs down the floor and things like that with a little swag. And I feel like it just like the momentum is something that really builds. And I think the momentum is what changes games. So I think that plays a factor. But interestingly enough, without fans this year, it's a little bit quiet. So like you can hear what coaches say and the opponents can hear that. And then you can also, it's almost like it's a pickup game or like a practice game. Like I feel like it would be hard if you're used to playing in front of large crowds and not play in front of any crowds. Like the game, I think within the game, like playing against these players gets a little bit more intense because you can like hear them. You can talk to them a little bit. So I feel like that is also different about this year, which I don't know if that affects it in a good or bad way, but it seems to be working well for us.
I don't mean to go off topic, but with the no fans, I'm excited to hear Terry Brands on Friday night. I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's you got to think there's going to be a team point or two taken away from Iowa, like without a doubt. So
yeah,
he's
there's a good
not
chance.
usually. And for those of you guys that don't know, Rob and Beau, maybe you do know, but so typically like an unsportsmanlike conduct, think of that like in football, gets you a flag, and wrestling that'll get a team point taken away. And so Tom and Terry Brands are known for their fiery personalities and not exactly hiding their opinions on calls and whatnot. Well, when you got 15, 16,000 screaming fans in Carver Hawkeye Arena, a lot of that gets drowned out. And, now you're going to have 100 fans there, maybe with immediate family, if that. So, yeah, there's going to be a team point or two taken away from them boys. I'm just
Lance too. Dylan and I both know. Rob, I'm not sure if you've ever been to an Iowa wrestling meet, but like you alluded to it earlier, like the people who go and yell "two," I mean, you know how electric that is. I'm going to be missing that Friday night, and I'm sure the wrestlers are too.
Yeah, that and the clap and the woo for Cassiope. And
do we want to just go straight into wrestling, guys?
do your mailbag.
Do we have any other mailbag questions?
I was going to say, we got one from Scott. Scott's out of the Waterloo, Waverly area. I know Rob and I know him from our old jobs back in the day. Super good guy. But Scott gave us a little shout out. He's like, hey, fellas, I want to give us your favorite Hawk, any sport, player, or coach. And he didn't specify, past or present. So whoever wants to go ahead and take this one first. What do you think?
So my favorite past player will forever be Chad Greenway. I want to have a drink with him sometime. Love Chad Greenway. Current player of any sport, that's a pretty tough one. But I think I like Joe Wieskamp because he's just a sly dog. That's all I got. Rob, what about you?
Funny story about Joe Wieskamp. It's the summer. I'm crossing the street on Market. And it's a crosswalk. It's like I'm headed downtown to meet up with some friends. It's the middle of the day. I think they're having like some sort of a Iowa fun festival or something like that, like where they had a lot of street vendors and things like that. So I'm crossing the road and it looks like a cop almost. I think it was a Ford Explorer. Might have been like around move-in time. Ford Explorer stops at the crosswalk and I like go to wave as I like walk, normal, being Iowa nice. And it's Joe Wieskamp in the driver's seat, and obviously there's a girl with him in the passenger seat, and I was like, oh, and he had his window down, and I'm like, oh, hey Joe, and he goes, hey. And like, I just kept walking. I didn't know what to say. I just said, hey, Joe. And like, he said, what's up? And you know what I mean? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But anyways, I like Joe. I wouldn't say he's my favorite current player.
Joe's a good guy.
I
He's a good guy for being a road
you know, could have asked him a question. I probably couldn't ask him a question, but I just said, hey, Joe, you know, like Jimi Hendrix. But regardless, my favorite current player is Amir Smith Marset. Just
why?
The swag of that man to go 70 miles an hour down Riverside Drive, get pulled over,
Jesus.
DUI in the same season, 3 touchdown game in the same season where he tried to flip into the end zone and then injured himself. Just getting after it, and like, gotta love him. My all-time favorite Hawk is another football player, Sean Green. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to see him play. Like some of my friends have been able to watch him play and remember him, but just one of my all-time favorite Hawks for sure. I mean, just the ridiculousness of him running the ball in a Kirk Ferentz offense. I'm just looking forward to the day where someone runs like the way that he did, and we'll see what that holds. But yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's a good one, Rob. I remember watching Sean Green play, and he was. It's something you had to be there to see. You know, you could see him on TV, and you could see, you know, the 10 straight 100-yard games or whatever he had in the Big Ten, which is just an outrageous stat in and of itself. So, no, I really like that. As far as guys go, because Scott gave us any sport player or coach, and I'm going to go coach. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 7 years ago today, Coach Norm Parker passed away. And so he was the initial defensive coordinator that came to the University of Iowa with Coach Kirk Ferentz back in '99, and coached here up until, I think he retired and then died, or he might have died still at the helm. I can't remember for sure because it was a while back. But I mean, those Iowa Hawkeye defenses, those defenses that we're so used to now, the tough nose, the 6 seconds of hell, that was all Norm Parker. That was what he came in and brought up. You know, Beau talked about it a little bit earlier with Chad Greenway. You know, Chad Greenway and Abdul Hodge both talked about him a little bit today on Twitter. You know, talked about what a hell of a mentor he was, not just a football coach, but just in life as well. And how many times have I talked about the 6 seconds of hell on this podcast? Like, you know, I still talk about it today. Like that's what I grew up with. That's what I know. Absolutely. Yeah. And the shirts are still out there somewhere. I'm sure they are. So I'm sure you could buy one, but you know, that's the defense I grew up with. And, you know, the guys like Bob Sanders, Chad Greenway, Abdul Hodge, just those studs. Sean Considine's another one that I know Beau has some experience with from Tyler Ellsbury and Nick Ellsbury being coached by him out in Byron. But yeah, that has to be my favorite Hawk of all time in the past. Maybe I'm just a little sentimental because he passed away 7 years ago today too, but love that man. And then as far as present goes, I'm going to go with kind of a funky one here, but Jack Campbell, linebacker for the Iowa Hawkeyes right now. We saw some glimpses this year, guys, where I think he's going to be your next defensive great. I think he's going to be one that ends up in the NFL, you know, whether it's as a defensive end or possibly an outside linebacker or some sort of hybrid kind of Khalil Mack-esque. Because I think he's going to grow into that with him still being a young man. So he's got to be my favorite, and it's probably just because of the potential, but just that future he has. Just love the kid, and he's going to do big things in a Hawkeye uniform.
The new Chad Greenway, right? That's what Kirk said. That's what I heard.
Well, that's what, you know, Kirk's very careful not to put those unwanted expectations on players and whatnot, but, you know, he reminds him a lot of the Chad Greenway, you know, being 6'4", 240, whatnot. So
I know he didn't mean to put that, but he did.
Oh, yeah, he kind of did, didn't he?
And now, Jack, you're the new Chad Greenway, buddy. Sorry. Gonna have to figure it out.
Right? And almost makes it, you know, just about a perfect segue. But the runner-up, the one that I wanted to say as far as current players goes, and it would have to be Spencer Lee, current athlete as far as the University of Iowa goes, just an overall ambassador for the University of Iowa. One guy that came in, to the wrestling program, really wanting to invigorate the Iowa status and the Iowa way that is, winning national championships and whatnot. And Spencer hasn't been successful at winning a national championship as a team. Obviously, he's a two-time national champion. So, he's got to be another one. I think, if he ends up being a four-timer, he might run for mayor. I don't know. Might run for governor. I think he could. So, I know he says he wants to be an athletic director, and I damn sure would have him be an athletic director at the University of Iowa. So, yeah. I mean, if you guys are cool with it, we can just go ahead and segue into wrestling from here. So.
Absolutely, guys. I'll let you take it away. Lance, I'll kind of turn it over to you, buddy. I'm glad to have you on. To be honest, I know a lot about – I love to hang my hat on basketball stats. I love to watch football, but I truthfully am a student of the game when it comes to wrestling. And I don't know about the rest of the crew here on Hawkeyes and Tallboys, the rest of the boys. But, I mean, for me, I just I'm still learning. I just recently learned what two meant. I've been to like 2 Iowa meets, and I loved it. I really like it. I think my favorite wrestler right now is Cassiope for no reason, just like him. And that's kind of my story when it comes to wrestling. But if you guys want to take over, just help enlighten me. I may ask questions as we go, but let's preview this wrestling.
Yeah, and I think most of the listeners know, as far as my wrestling background goes, it doesn't go much past JV wrestling, but Lance here, our guest, was actually somewhat worth the shit. So, Lance, before we really dive into, this Iowa-Nebraska matchup here this week, tell us a little bit about your injury-riddled career.
So, yeah, apparently you know a little bit about me. So I'm a Hinschberger from Belle Plaine. I grew up around wrestling my whole life. I mean, I remember being like 3 or 4 years old, and I was tossed into a wrestling room. I was a 2-time state place winner. Missed a year and a half of wrestling in high school due to injuries. Went on to college, wrestled at Upper Iowa University. Had kind of an injury-riddled career there too. Now I'm coaching for back home, Belle Plaine, back in the SICL.
Hell yeah.
Fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Good time.
That's what, back in my Prairie Hawk wrestling days, I remember having a few Saturday practices with you guys, and I don't know what, you're probably a year younger than me, so I don't know if you remember those or not, but I remember a few of those. I think, yeah, you guys would come to us, or I want to say we came to you guys as well, but yeah.
I think it was every other year we went the opposite way.
Yep. So because that's right. My freshman year and then sophomore year, we went back to you guys. So, but yeah, no, definitely a couple, storied programs right there. And and for those of you that don't know, the Hinschberger name is very well known in the Belle Plaine area as well. So, no, awesome to have you on, man. And, excited. Obviously, I'm, a big Iowa wrestling fanatic. And how did you end up a Nebraska wrestling fan?
Well, so actually, I'm not a fan of any collegiate wrestling school besides Upper Iowa. I'll explain this a little bit.
Peacocks.
Yeah, I am a peacock, cock strong, cock power. But so my dad grew up in Omaha for a long time in his life. He's a big Nebraska football fan. That's why I'm a Nebraska football fan.
Yeah,
when it comes to wrestling, I'm a fan first of Iowa-bred wrestlers. So, you think of like Brandon Sorensen. Yep. You think, let's look at the lineup: Carter Happel, Nelson Brands, those kind of guys. I'm fans of them first. I'm fans of like Iowa State, UNI, whatnot. And then on the Nebraska side, I'm fans of Alex Thompson, their 33-pounder, because he's a 4-timer from Iowa. And then, fun fact, their athletic trainer is from Belle Plaine.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was a wrestler from Belle Plaine.
You know him?
Yeah, I know him pretty well.
What's his name?
Tyler Weeda.
Hell yeah. Shout out to him.
Right.
So, yeah, he's from Belle Plaine. He travels around with Jordan Burroughs and used to travel around with James Green, really good friends with James Green. So he's been all over the world.
Okay.
Those guys.
Let me stop you there, Lance, just to fill these guys in here. So Jordan Burroughs in the wrestling world, I saw this comparison on Flow today, and I think it's probably accurate. Jordan Burroughs would be like the, LeBron James of basketball in the wrestling world. So absolute freak throughout his collegiate career. And then, he's just tearing it up in the world circuit and Olympics and still tearing it up. And God, how old is he now? Has he hit his 30s yet?
He's got to be like 31, 32. Fun fact, he's actually wrestling David Taylor probably right now.
I think it just got over with. I'll have to check Twitter on this and get back, but I think it got over with.
Don't tell me. I got to watch the match once we're done here.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Don't reveal it.
You guys can reveal it. It's fine. But I'll be a little sour.
Jordan Burroughs. So where did he go to school at?
So he's born and raised in New Jersey. He wrestled for Nebraska.
Okay. Gotcha. What weight did he wrestle?
In college, pretty sure he was 49, 57, 65.
Really?
That sounds right.
In that order throughout the years. He was a two-time national champ, and he's sorry, my dog. He's a 5-time Olympic and world champ right now, hopefully going for his 6th this year.
And I'm pretty sure too that Flow Wrestling has their own little documentary on him too, and it's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. What's Flow Wrestling? Question for you.
It's like the Big Ten network for wrestling.
Oh,
kind
gotcha.
of. Like last year, they housed all of Iowa's meets, all Big Ten meets in general. But I don't think they picked up that contract this year. So, but they already took the $100 out of my bank account. Those rat bastards. Oh well.
Yeah.
So what's
they got my money too.
So what's our obviously we got Spencer Lee, who's a defending national champion. We got my boy Cassioppi's in there. What's our lineup looking like?
Yeah. I was going to say, I can touch on this. So for those of you that don't know, obviously the NCAA championships didn't happen last year. So what they did is they went and took the top, and Lance, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I want to say they took the top 8 seeds at every weight and awarded them quote unquote All-Americans. So again, not really earned in the wrestlers' eyes. We heard Spencer Lee in an interview on Media Day a few weeks back where he said that doesn't really count in his eyes. But as far as quote unquote returning All-Americans, we got, at 125, we got Spencer Lee, 2-time national champion. We got at 133, Austin DeSanto, couple-time All-American, I believe, as well. And then at 141, kind of a tricky, or not tricky, but kind of a funky thing that a lot of people may not know just yet that aren't in the wrestling community is Jaden Ironman took last year off to Olympic redshirt to train for the Olympics for 2020. Obviously, it didn't happen with COVID, but he was a 3-time All-American out at Missouri. And so he's transferring, and he's got himself a black singlet now at 141. So 149, then you got Max Mirren, and another guy to keep an eye out for. And you guys might know this Iowa to Florida connection from Pat Lugo last year, but we got Brettley Reyna out, 4-time state champion out of Florida. So you're going to see him in the lineup. He's actually in the lineup for this weekend as well, or this weekend, Friday night versus Nebraska. So you'll see him or Max Mirren wrestling a little bit. 157, we got Caleb Young returning. 165, we got who's known as the Bull in the wrestling community, Alex Marinelli, number 2 ranked in the nation right now. 174, you got Michael Kemmerer, number 1 in the nation right now. Another guy who's a 4-time state champ out of Minnesota, you got Pat Kennedy wrestling at that 174 spot as well. So you'll see a little bit of him. 184, Iowa's got a couple guys as well. It looks like Nelson Brands out of Iowa City West, son of Coach Terry Brands, got the nod there. I'm sure we're going to see a little bit of Abe Assad coming out of there as well. So you see both guys are ranked this year. So pretty unusual to see two guys at the same weight ranked in the same season, but pretty cool nonetheless. 97, you got Jacob Warner, a couple-time All-American for the Hawks, and then your boy Rob, Tony Cassiope out of, how the hell do you say that town? Like, not Quasqueton, but it's in Illinois. Keosaugen, something, Hanahagen. I don't know. I had a football coach that coached there for a while, so he loves Tony Cass. But regardless, actually was a wrestling coach of mine too. So the lineup, it's stacked. It's got to be one of the first times, and besides last year, anyways, in the University of Iowa wrestling history that they got they got 11 wrestlers in the top 10. So a lot to be excited for. I think they're the odds-on favorite to win the national title. Yeah, I guess, Lance, your thoughts on the Iowa lineup, or, tell us a little bit about the Nebraska lineup, maybe.
Yeah, the Iowa lineup, I already believe that they're going to be better than they were last year. Nelson Brand slotted in at 184. He did beat Abe Assad in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club Open back in, I want to say, like September, October-ish, maybe November. I can't remember. Yep. But he beat that was in freestyle, so a different kind of style of wrestling. But I did see pictures of Iowa wrestle-offs, I think last week or this past weekend, and I didn't see any pictures of Nelson and Assad, and I didn't see any results from the wrestle-offs. But obviously Nelson has slotted himself in there right now if Abe's not even in the lineup at all. Looking at Iowa's lineup, I'm kind of wondering, well, actually looking at Iowa and Nebraska's lineups, I'm kind of wondering if some of these matches are going to be some extra matches, because they are allowed basically like exhibition matches every dual meet. But I mean, Iowa's freaking solid, and with Ironman transferring in, that's huge. That's huge. That guy, that's one of the only guys that's ever beaten Yanni Diakomahalis, and Yanni is electric. He's on the same path as Spencer Lee right now. They're both looking to make world teams, and Spencer, I mean, I could see him forgoing next year and just focusing on world and Olympic titles. I could honestly see him not wrestling every duel this year to get ready for Olympic trials and make the team.
See, that's where I think. Well, I don't know. I think a little different. I think Spencer Lee loves Iowa too much. I don't think he would ever take a meet off, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. So, I agree. I agree with you. If it. What's that?
Go ahead, Lynn. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I agree with you there, Beau. He loves Iowa. He loves being a Hawkeye. I mean, his club coach is Jody Strittmatter, former Hawkeye wrestler. But I mean, Olympic trials are coming up in April, I believe, and that the brands are gonna get him ready for that at the same time. And like last year when he was getting ready for the Olympics, he did take some matches off here and there because the brands have a plan, and Spencer Lee believes in that plan. He said it in interviews and stuff, and I don't know what's going to happen this year. I mean, the season could be canceled at any time, it seems like, just like it was last year. But I mean, I would love to watch Spencer Lee wrestle every match.
Yep. No. And so for the record, I think you guys are both right. From what I hear, Beau, I think you're right to the point where, everything you hear from Spencer Lee is he said it at media day, when he accepted the Hodge Trophy from last year, that he told Tom Brands, when he signed to be a Hawk, that he wanted to be his first four-timer. So, he wants to be a four-time national champion for the Iowa Hawkeyes. But, there's a big but there where I think Lance has a very solid point where his ultimate goal is to win the Olympics, win a gold medal for the United States. And, I think damn well he can do that. And you look at last year, he was on that plan. He was on that plan to potentially win that gold medal, where he was going to take matches off here and there because of Tom and Terry's plan that they had set out for him. So, no, I think you guys are both right to that extent. However, I do think we see Spencer Lee, use up his eligibility in that black singlet. So
for you basketball folks,
Yeah.
the Olympics is like the pinnacle of wrestling. I mean, world championships happen every year, but the year of the Olympics. But the Olympics are the pinnacle, and so that, to me, I don't know a whole lot about basketball, but that seems like the NBA championship. That seems like comparable to me. Like, you're the best in the world, and the Olympics is every 4 years. You're the best. Jordan Burroughs would rather be an Olympic champ than a world champ.
absolutely.
So we got games coming up in Tokyo this summer. Are those the games you're talking about?
Yeah.
So we could possibly see like a Spencer Lee in there.
Yep.
He's probably, I haven't looked at the rankings for 57 kilograms, but I imagine, and from what I'm hearing, Spencer Lee and Thomas Gilman are a couple of the top two. Thomas Gilman's a former Hawkeye that has he was wrestling at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and now he's at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. So basically, he's a Penn State guy now.
Because he was the same weight as Spencer Lee, right?
Man, what's that?
Because he didn't want to wrestle Spencer Lee anymore, right? Because they're the same weight.
I heard rumor that he was getting whooped in the room. So
he was sick of getting whooped.
I heard rumor that he was getting whooped.
Damn.
And that makes sense. I've kind of heard the same thing. I didn't know how much of that was sour grapes around the HWC, the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, but I've kind of heard the same thing, that he was getting whooped, and kind of similar to like the Tony Ramos situation a few years back, if you guys remember that at all, where he was killing it for the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and then you had Tom Brands in one corner in his match against Daniel Dennis, and then you had Terry Brands, or the other Brands brother, in the other corner, and he supposedly got all pissed off about that, and then went to UNC and wrestled in their club. But again, I think it was just another one of those situations where you're just getting your ass beat, and they claim they want to see some different wrestling, but I think we all know what it is, Lance. I think just tired of getting their asses kicked.
How old is Gilman?
Gilman, he's been out 3 years, 4 years.
Yep, so
It'd be like 20.
This would be the 4th year.
Yep.
26.
Spencer Lee slotted right after him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's another one that he never got himself an NCAA title, but
man, was he exciting to watch.
Oh, he was awesome. He was fun to watch. Oh God. So
Lance, I got a question for you, and it doesn't even have to be a Hawkeye, and maybe does Jordan Burroughs, but who's your favorite within the last few years? Who is your favorite wrestler to watch in terms of being electric and just, overall a great wrestler?
The way I look at the sport, I mean, there's wrestling on your feet, there's wrestling on top, and there's wrestling on bottom. And I mean, I like guys for each aspect of the sport, but my all-time favorite is probably, it's really tight with it's honestly really tight with Spencer Lee and Yanni Diakomahalis. They both put up a bunch of points on the board, and I can't, there's no words to describe like the differences of them. They just both go out there to whoop everybody pretty much. And the only difference with Spencer and Yanni is Yanni's flexible as heck and gets himself in crazy positions and scores every time, pretty much. Spencer just takes the guy down and turns the heck out of him. I mean, Spencer gets the match done and before the first period's over. You listen to Tom Brands Tom Brand's media day interview. He was calling out Flow Wrestling. I loved it. They were comparing Spencer Lee's points scored in the first period, the second period, and the third period. And they were saying that Spencer Lee's not very good at scoring points in the second and third period. Tom Brands is like, well, he doesn't get out of the first period. He checks them. He checks them or pins them.
Yep.
No, there's no more points to be scored.
Right. Yeah,
I loved it.
That was a stupid article by Flo. I remember that, and I don't even think that guy's working for him anymore. But
no, he likes his bikini pics. I like to get him.
Oh shit! But no, I like that question. And Beau, I know you didn't ask me, but you know, that's tough to think about. You know, as a
we need you to weigh in.
Hey, do you want me to tell you mine and you think about it for a minute?
No, because I think I know mine, and I haven't seen the results tonight, except for what Beau texted me, and I already know what happened. But I'd almost have to say David Taylor. You know, David Taylor on that. God, you know, you watching him as a Penn State Nittany Lion, and you know, just kind of that same thought process that Lance was just talking about. You know, just those guys that go out there, they don't go out there to win matches. You know, like. You know, I love Pat Lugo as a former Hawkeye. I really do. But I think he went out there to win matches. And then you got those guys like Spencer Lee, Jordan Burroughs. You got David Taylor, those guys that go out there. You know, Yanni Deckelhamas. I botched that. But another guy, they go out there to dominate. They don't go out there to win. And I love that kind of wrestling. So because Lance brought up those two names, I'd have to go with David Taylor. So, and the Hawkeye faithful are going to hate me for that one. Sorry, USA.
Want to ask me? Go ahead. The answer is Tony Cassiope out of Roscoe, Illinois. He was a two-time Illinois state champion. He finished 100-0 as a senior and junior. Tony Cassiope can't change my mind.
Fair.
I'm with you, Dill. I think I'm gonna piss off a lot of people. But my rationale is pretty good. So my favorite wrestler is Bo Nickel from Penn State.
Dude.
Damn.
Why? I fucking hate that guy.
Because
Blue hair?
So my first wrestling experience with Bo Nickel, I was at Carver, and Sammy Brooks, baby, the mullet, he was beating him. He's beating him pretty good and got him in a pretty tough situation. And Bo Nickel spladled his ass and got the pin on Sammy Brooks at home. That was the first time I looked at my buddies. I was like, man, that dude just straight up played Sammy Brooks. And ever since then, he's a bad dude. Like, he's got that bad boy persona. He goes out, basically wants to beat some dudes' asses, and he knows how to wrestle. I really like Bo Nickel.
Is it because his name's Bo too?
Yeah, right. He spells his wrong though.
Oh, gotcha.
I won't discredit him for that.
So,
while we're talking about favorite wrestlers real quick, do you guys know that Spencer Lee had one match last year that did not end up in bonus points? So bonus points, for you guys that don't know wrestling, if you win by 1 point to 7 points, that's called a regular decision. 7 to 14 is a major decision. That would be considered a bonus point. A tech fall is winning by 15 or more. And a pinfall is pinning a guy on his back. Spencer Lee only had one match that wasn't a bonus point victory last year.
Who's that against?
Yeah.
It was against Jack Medley from Michigan in the duel. He won 8-1. He only needed one more point to have all bonus point victories in the season.
Now I've seen Spencer wrestler.
Lance, do you remember that duel? I was going to say Medley stalled his ass off too. It was incredible.
Dude, he did. I will say he did a really good job at not giving up his wrist. Spencer likes to tie up the wrist on top. And Medley, I don't know how he didn't stall out of the match.
Right.
I mean, he should have. The match should have ended because he wasn't wrestling. He literally wasn't wrestling.
Right.
But he did. He stuck to his game plan, and he didn't give up a bonus point. That was the only match. I was looking at that today.
You know,
I was just in awe.
Right. And I say that too, like as an Iowa fan, like telling him how he stalled his ass off. But then again, any of us that have ever wrestled before, especially early on in the sport, we've been that guy on bottom where it's like, yeah, I'm just trying not to get pinned. And that's what Medley was doing. Yeah, I was trying not to get tech balled.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think he won that match in his eyes. But
I was gonna say I have a few. So when it comes to stalling, I've seen stalling, in matches before where I'm like, this dude keeps going out of bounds. You know what I mean? Like when he's close to being out of bounds, he'll just go out of bounds. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like, why isn't this guy wrestling? And then everyone's calling for stalling around me in Carver. And I'm like, well, maybe he is stalling. But like, so that's just basically taking time not wrestling.
Yeah, essentially. So college wrestling is really hard to follow. Like American wrestling, the way that Americans wrestle for high school and college is way different than they do internationally, like in Russia and Iran and whatnot. So like the stuff that Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor are doing right now is not American style wrestling. It's what they do in the world. So American style wrestling, and especially at the collegiate level, if you're not trying to score and you go out of bounds, you're going to get called for stalling. I mean, one stalling call is just a warning, the second one's a point, third one's a point, and so on. Iowa fans are just greedy. Iowa wrestling fans are greedy all the time. I love it.
yeah.
The brands are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fans are literally just echoing the brand.
Well, that's what Lance. You ever seen the statue outside of Carver of Dan Gable?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they literally had him holding up the fist, and for those of you that don't know, that's universal stall. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean,
but you got to be pushing the pace in CHA.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's all about getting in your face, just shoving you all over the mat, wearing you out. Once the third period comes, you don't want to wrestle an Iowa guy because they're not tired. They're not tired at all. It's like they just went through a warm up before a sporting event, and now they're here to wrestle in the third period, and it's only 2 minutes, but it's 2 minutes of freaking hell.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases.
On that note, Lance, what was your wrestling style? Were you wanted to go out, hard first, second period and just hang on for dear life third period, or was it pretty methodical in terms of, hey, I'm gonna go 50%, see what I can do here at the end of the period, do the same thing second period, and conserve until the third? I guess what was your overall outlook there?
So the way that I looked at wrestling and the way that I trained, and I'm not saying I was the greatest wrestler ever. I obviously I'm not. I wrestled Division II, which I believe Division II is great, but I always trained myself to go as hard as freaking possible. And in the third period, that guy's going to be more tired than me. I'll be tired, but that guy's going to be way more tired than me. And I'll wear on him for 2 periods, try to score as many points as possible. I mean, I wish I could write like Spencer Lee and take a guy down like Yanni Diakonahalis or stuff like that, Yeah. Yeah, throw a guy like Tony. But I mean, the thing I love so I really, really do like Iowa wrestling a lot. I mean, I named my dog Gable for a reason. But they're just in your face, always pushing, always, except for when Zaleski was the coach. When Zaleski was the coach, they weren't trying to score. But when the Brands came, they finally tried scoring a little bit. But
hey,
they're
you're
always
talking
in
to
your
a
face.
talk here, Lance. Take it easy.
I know.
Easy with that Zaleski talk there.
No, I do like Zaleski, but he beat my dad in high school. But
bad blood.
but Iowa wrestling has changed a lot in the last 4 years, I think. They've always been in your face, during the Gable era, they were putting up points and getting in your face and being mean. During the Zaleski era, I'm sorry, Dylan, but it was a little bit there wasn't a whole lot of points scored, it didn't seem like to me. And then now with the Brands, it's just time to beat you up and keep scoring, especially with the way that Spencer Lee wrestles.
Oh, absolutely.
I was going to ask, so I've seen Spencer Lee play or wrestle a lot. Well, I guess a few times, but having not being like an expert on the sport. So there's ways to wrestle where you just basically try to outscore your opponent to the point where like they couldn't possibly catch up, or like, are you always going for a pin, or are you just kind of playing it as you go? Like, it's going to be hard to pin this guy, I'm just going to score a bunch of points. Or if I can pin him, I'm pinning him type thing, or how does that go?
So in wrestling, Rob, once you're up by 15 points, they stop the match right there, and that's considered a tech fall. Unless you're in the middle or you got on their back where you can potentially get a pinfall, because the difference in team points there is if you get a pinfall, that's a 6 points towards your team score. And then if you get a tech fall, that's 5 points towards your team score. So they're going to let you finish out move if they think you're going to pin somebody. But, as soon as you let them back to a somewhat, I wouldn't say neutral position, but a position where you're on top and not in a threat to pin the person anymore, they're going to call it if you're up by 15. So you see a lot of Spencer Lee's matches end at, 20-3, 20-4 kind of thing. So I guess you have anything you want to add there, Lance?
Yeah, I mean, everybody there's different styles for wrestling. It's kind of, you gotta watch a lot of it, and American style of wrestling is tough to follow compared to like the international styles. There's either push the pace, score a lot of points, or stall your ass out.
Perfect.
But yeah, I know we touched on it. I think, before we get to running too much, we definitely got to go through, this Friday night matchup. We got Iowa starting off their season. I know Nebraska already went last week, right, Lance?
Yeah, they wrestled Minnesota last week. Got the W against them.
Okay.
Minnesota's a pretty tough team.
Oh, absolutely.
And my honest thought is that Nebraska is a pretty good team, like a pretty dang good team, but Iowa is just like out of the world right now. Just like, I don't think there's a shot.
Right. Well, we'll tell you what, Lance. With me and you being the wrestling experts for each squad, you want to go through matchups 125 to heavyweight?
Yeah, we can do that.
Predictions. All right. So 125, we got Spencer Lee for the Hawkeyes, number 1 in the nation, or Aaron Cashman versus Liam Cronin, who's ranked the highest I saw was 10. I guess, how do you see that playing out?
Spencer tacked him and pinned him last year. Liam Cronin is a transfer from Indiana. He's been wrestling in Indiana his whole college career and is at Nebraska now. Cronin had a 8-1 or decision 8-1 against Patrick McKee. He's actually a pretty good wrestler. But Spencer's there's bonus points written all over this. Spencer's gonna probably Spencer's gonna take him down, get on top, and turn him. Left and right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. That's what I remember from that Iowa Indiana match from last year, where I think Spencer got on top, and 3 tilts later it was over. I don't think that one got out of the first, and I know the one where he pinned him. I think it got out of the first, but it was early in the second, if I remember right. You might have it in front of you, but that's what I got this one at. Lee getting the tech fall.
Yep, early in the first.
Yep. So I got Lee tech fall there. And then it starts getting a little bit more interesting once you get down to the heavyweights. But who do you got at 133? Austin DeSano versus Alex Thompson, 4 versus 20.
DeSano's a madman. Alex Thompson's a former 4-time state champ from Underwood, Iowa. I really do like watching Alex Thompson. especially when he was in high school. He liked to score a lot of points, but I mean, Austin DeSanto beat Spencer Lee in high school. So I mean, and a healthy Austin DeSanto is a madman, and he's tough to beat. So I mean, I think it's gonna be bonus points here. I mean, tech or pin.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm with you there. You know, I think of it's so funny you bring up, you know, Alex Thompson's high school careers in the state of Iowa. He was just so dominant. And then you see him his true freshman year, or might have been redshirt freshman year at Nebraska, and just, you know, it didn't go as us Iowans, you know, especially in the wrestling community, thought it was going to go. And, you know, he had a rough start where I think he can get there, you know, to being that potentially all-American caliber wrestler. But I don't think he's there yet. I think I'm with you. I think Austin DeSanto wins this one, major decision. So, and then 141, you got Jaden Ironman, you know, former Mizzou wrestler, currently ranked #1 in the nation, or Carter Happel possibly. Could see either one of them guys going versus Chad Red, ranked 5th in the nation right now, or Ridge Lovett.
So Ridge Lovett, I'm pretty sure is sitting out this whole year. He was last year's 133 pounder. I believe he was basically considered a COVID All-American. Ironman, ranked #1. Stuff. Chad Red, I love that guy. He is so much fun to watch. He throws out the kitchen sink every time, but it's Jaden Ironman. Decision to major, maybe.
Okay. I like that. I got Ironman decision as well. So, and for both of us, I think you have Iowa slightly higher, but my score total, you know, 3 matches in, I got Iowa at 12-0. So I think you had a major to Tech in there somewhere. So you might have somewhere in the 12 to 14.
Yeah, I think I got at 14. I got 14.
14. Okay. So and at 49, we got Max Mirren or Brett Lee Reyna versus Brock Hardy or Jevin Parrish. So let's just go ahead and assume it's going to be Mirren and Brock Hardy going at it.
Yeah, so Mirren jumping up a weight. I'm not sure how he fits 149, but he is a damn good wrestler. Brock Hardy made his collegiate debut last week and looked really good. He wrestled Michael Balakis, who's formerly from New Hampton, Iowa, and just transferred to Minnesota from UNI.
From Cresco, Iowa, first before he transferred to New Hampton.
Yeah, that is true. I think Block is damn tough, but this Brock Hardy, I knew there's a lot to him that we haven't been able to see, and I think in that match, man, he controlled the whole entire match. But it is Max Mirren. Max Mirren's been here, done that, and this is Brock Hardy's first time in Carver, even though there are limited fans, but he might still get Carvered. I'm going Max Mirren the decision.
Yep, and I'm the same thing there here. I got Max Mirren with the decision as well. I think if this match is rest of the year from now, and this could even happen on Friday night as well, but you know, I think Brock Hardy, he's got the potential where, you know, he could potentially be an All-American this year, and for sure within the next couple of years. So damn good wrestler there. Then 157, we got Caleb Young, currently ranked 6th, versus Caleb Licking. We had one person or one outlet. I can't remember if it was Intermat. It was one of them, but one of them had him ranked at 29th. So I got a decision for Caleb Young there. You know, I know last year he had his struggles late in the season cutting weight, but you didn't see that early on, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, Caleb Young, he's hard to gauge. He's either, really good or really decent. You know, I'm not saying these guys that he's wrestling are bad, but you just never really know what kind of Caleb Young you're going to get. Caleb Licking wrestled Brayton Lee from Minnesota last week, who I believe is, depending on the ranking outlet you're looking at, he's somewhere in the 4 or 5 ranking, lost 10-5. I think this is going to be a really close match, actually, with Caleb Young coming out on top by 1 or 2 points. It's a very small decision, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. And then, at 65, we got currently ranked number 2 in the nation, Alex Marinelli, the Bull, taking on either Peyton Robb or Isaiah Alford. And I know, I just think of last year watching Peyton Robb, and I want to say he was 57 last year, right? That sound familiar?
Yeah, he was 57-pounder last year.
I was going to say, because I remember him wrestling Caleb Young at Carver Tough, and I was a season ticket holder last year, so I remember coming away from that match like, holy shit, Caleb Young was lucky to get out of there and with the win, and I think Peyton Robb's got himself a hell of a future. So I think he gives it to Marinelli a little bit and gives him a hell of a match, and I'm only going decision there. I'm not even going bone. What do you think?
Well, actually, last year, so Caleb Young beat Rob in the duel, but Rob beat Young at Big Ten.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking of.
Rob's a tough dude, but Marinelli, he's a bull for a reason.
Right.
I don't see Marinelli blowing him out, but I'm sure it'll be by 4 or 5 points.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. And then you got returning number 1 in the nation. You got Michael Kimmerer versus or Patrick Kennedy. You could see that potential 4-timer out of Minnesota, facing Mikey Labriola, number 3 in the nation. So I know Kimmerer got him what I want to say was 3-1, at the duel at Carver. To say
3-1.
He avoided him at Big Tens or not if
they didn't wrestle at Big Tens.
I didn't think so. So they avoided each other there. So
Labriola lost in the semis at Big Tens.
Right. So I got Kimmerer with the decision. I think this is one of those you could very well see Patrick Kennedy step in there and wrestle him, and Tom and Terry say, "Hey, there you go, young buck. Let's see what he got." But what do you?
Yeah, with Kimmerer's being injured in the past, that very well could happen. But Labriola ain't no slouch. I mean, he's funky. Reminds me of like a bigger Diakono Hollis a little bit, just not quite on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminds me of like a Taylor Lujan from you and I, like that. But I mean, Chem Dog Millionaire, you can't bet against him. So I think it'll be a pretty close match, but Kimmerer comes out on top.
Okay. Okay. So far we're with each other here. Okay.
So far,
I like your thinking, but it gets a little hectic now. So we got we got Nelson Brands, currently ranked number 8 in the nation, versus Taylor Vence, currently ranked number 6. And if you remember at Carver, Abe Assad, when he got the red shirt pulled, he got Vence, but obviously that didn't translate much later on down the road in the Big Tens and whatnot. So who do you got? I want you to answer first.
I got Vence by major.
Vence by major. Okay, I got Vence by decision here.
Okay.
So
I think Vence is a pretty good top wrestler. He's a pretty good top wrestler. If he can get brands broken down, grab a wrist. I mean, I think he'll be able to do pretty well. But I might be stretching it with a major.
See, and that's just kind of what I was thinking there, because I think the same thing. I think you see Vence get takedown in that first period, and then from there, he's going on top, and Nelson's trying to wrestle back and get the points from bottom. And yeah, I just don't see it happening. Same thing, because I saw that last year firsthand. Taylor Vence on top of Abe Assad, and that's tricky. It's tricky with him to get out, and hell of a top wrestler. So we're the same there. All right, that kind of surprised me. I thought we might differ there, but with you being an Iowa guy and all. So, well, 197, you got Jacob Warner, so currently number 3 in the nation, or possibly Connor Corbin stepping in there versus Eric Schultz. So, again, guys, I think Warner's got the series all time with him 2-1, but Schultz got him most recently. So, who do you got there?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Schultz. He looked pretty solid against Jules of Minnesota. He majored him 14-3. Watching that duel, Schultz is like a different wrestler than he was last year. I don't know what Warner's really looking like. I did watch him at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club Open. But man, Schultz looked too good last week. They've already got one match under their belt for the college season. I'm not sure how Warner's going to come out. A lot of times he starts matches a little slow, and Schultz likes to score a little bit more, I feel like. So I'm going to go with Schultz just by decision.
Right. So now, Rob, you touched on this earlier, and so did you, Lance, in regards to basketball. But if this match was going to be wrestled in front of, 15, 16,000 screaming fans in Carver, I would take Jacob Warner in the decision every day of the week. But with there being no fans, I think that's going to make a difference. And obviously Schultz has been to Carver before. He knows what the atmosphere is all about. I got Schultz as well. Decision, and that's putting Iowa 24-6 going into 285 heavyweight. So again, I think that match could happen again down the road, and I don't know who wins that one at Big Tens. I think it's a toss up there, but I think Schultz gets him Friday night. And then 285, we got Rob's boy, Tony Cassiope, currently number 3 in the nation.
Big T.
Taking on Christian Lance or possibly Cale Davidson. So depending on how that goes. And I got Cassiope with a major. I think, I think he's ready to rock. What do you think, Lance?
Rob's boy beat Christian Lance 6-1 last year. I believe it was in the duel. I'm
just destroyed him.
I'm not betting against Cass in this match at all.
No.
You can't bet against that big smile.
No.
I'm just hoping we hear some woos on TV.
Same. I agree.
Right. So yeah, I mean that puts my final score for the Hawks at 28-6. I'll go with 27-6 Iowa, because I'm assuming, like we touched on earlier, I think Tom or Terry Brands gets unsportsmanlike somewhere in there. So they're going to get a team point taken away. That's just going to happen. And I think we have to accept that. What do you got the final score at, Lance? Do you have it on there?
5. I got it 28-6.
Okay.
I do believe.
Wow. So literally same across the board.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean,
wait, you don't
not to take anything away from
getting
Nebraska. Not to take anything away from Nebraska. They're a really good team, but Iowa's just that damn good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think, Nebraska has potential. All Americans already got Christian Lance, who can easily slide up. I think Schultz and Venz are a shoe-in, Labriel as well. And Peyton Robb, I think he's another one, shoe-in. Chad Red, another one. I think, it's just like any other year where the Big Ten is just, outrageous when it comes to wrestling. I think outside of the Big Ten, typically we see an Iowa-Oklahoma State duel to get a good idea of what they got. And, it sucks to hear that we don't get that this year, but Big Ten, like always in wrestling, it's going to be a gauntlet.
Yep.
That's for sure.
So, well, all righty. I guess overall, Lance, you got any parting words? Anything for the wrestling fans out there? Anyone you want to watch?
All I want to say is women's wrestling is the number 1 growing sport for females. So support women's wrestling. I appreciate the support, especially from Rob and Beau. They don't know a whole lot about wrestling. I know Beau knows maybe a little bit more. Rob, keep following wrestling.
Yeah, me too.
I believe it's one of the greatest sports. You know what? And I'll do my part and try to learn a little bit about basketball too, because I don't know a whole lot. But I'm going to say go Hawks for wrestling and GBR.
Whoa! All right.
Hey, we'll respect you on that, though. Thanks for coming on, brother. We really
Hey,
appreciate
thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate your knowledge.
And before you do take off, Lance, just so you know, I got myself a girlfriend with a daughter that just turned 3, and I'm already in her ear about wrestling. Her mother's got her convinced that she wants to be a dancer and a cheerleader, and I'm letting her know that wrestling helps with flexibility, and she can
absolutely.
be good at all that. So
There you go.
no issues there.
Self-defense, right, Dill?
Absolutely. So like he said, I think, women's wrestling is just taking off. I saw a stat earlier where just in the high school ranks alone, it is blown up, and you got a 2 or 3 time Fargo champion. I can't remember the gal's name, but she just committed to Iowa Lesland to wrestle. So, I think girls wrestling is really taken off, and the state of Iowa is kind of the pinnacle for it at the university level and at the high school level. So
Even at the college level, there's more women's programs growing in the state of Iowa. So, I mean, we need a Iowa High School Girls Athletic Union. I'm not sure if I said that right, but you guys need to sanction women's wrestling.
Agreed.
Nice, guys. Well, after Tony Cassiope gets a tech fall, we'll go ahead and be listening to a little Iowa Hawkeye victory polka like we always do. Going to close it out. Thanks so much for listening to this. Thanks for Lance for stepping in and informing us and letting us know about all the awesome wrestling that we have going on. And cheers, you guys, in 2021. Stay safe.
Cheers. Appreciate it, Lance. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, guys.
Appreciate it, guys. GBR.